You see a dark-colored vehicle with flashing lights. They flash a badge too. They have a uniform on and they look legit. They might even ask you to pull over on the highway and open your door. And you may comply because you think it's the law, but it's not. It's an imposter. And soon you know you're in trouble with real help so far out of reach. From fake maintenance workers to creeps posing as law enforcement, dangerous people impersonating authority is more than just scary. It can be deadly. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. You may know me from my true crime channel here on YouTube, Kimbyrleigha. I'm Kimbyrleigha or Kimbyr, and this is Candidly Kimbyr. And on this channel, I'm going to be diving into some of the most creepy and interesting real life stories from around the web, mostly right now, focusing on one of my favorite places, and that is Reddit. And today we're going to be talking about something that I think is very, very scary. Impersonations. Someone pretending to be, let's say, a police officer, a delivery driver, or even a maintenance worker. And their motives definitely were not good. And before we begin, I'm wearing my vampire contact lenses again, so I hope that doesn't distract you too much, but actually I'm kind of hoping it does because it will take away from another distraction. I have a new addition to my mouth, braces on the bottom. I've been wanting to have braces for so long to fix my bottom teeth, so I'm still getting used to speaking with them, so forgive me if it's a little off and different than it usually is, but let's jump in. The first story is from the Let's Not Meet subreddit, which we are very familiar with. It's entitled, "Am I Overreacting or is my mailman creepy?" It's from Angel Blake 17, and it goes like this. She said, "I'm 23 years old and a female. I live alone in a decently nice apartment in a nice neighborhood for 2 years now. For the most part, the mail gets delivered to the mailboxes at the front entrance of the building. Occasionally, packages are delivered straight to apartment doors, and it's pretty convenient. Well, about a year ago, I was home from work during the day because I took the afternoon off to go to a doctor's appointment. The doorbell rang, and I have a Ring camera. I saw it was the mailman, so I answered. I have this whole exchange on video. He was maybe in his 30s, white, short, like 5'5"-ish, very large glasses, and really disheveled, thin hair. I opened the door, smiled, and said, 'Thanks so much,' and went to take the package. He stopped and stared at me like something was wrong. So I was like, 'Oh, sorry, did you need to take a picture of the delivery or something?' And to my surprise, he said, 'I know you. I've seen you before.' And you can see on the camera, my face changes. My body demeanor gets uncomfortable, and I move behind the door. I said, 'I'm sorry, I don't think we've met.' I want to shut the door, but he raises his voice and takes a step forward and says, 'I've seen your name on your mail. I found you on Instagram.' My face went white, and I froze. I said, 'Me?' I was kind of like a deer in headlights. He said, 'Yeah, you are a person of interest on Instagram for me. Your account was private, but you're pretty.'" Okay, Kimbyr commenting here. That is way too much. And I don't think people even realize the whole like putting a real name on social media sometimes because this can happen. He's openly admitting to stalking her on Instagram from getting her name off of her mail. That is a big yikes. And she says, "I said thanks and slammed the door, locking it quickly. I was happy to know I caught the whole thing on video. I showed it to my then boyfriend who agreed that it was weird. A few days later on Saturday, he's back at my door. He rang the bell about 10 times, waiting a few minutes just staring. I answered him through the doorbell and said, 'Hi, you can just leave any mail, thanks.' What he said next made me shake. He said, 'I actually don't have any mail for you today. I just wanted to say hi. Can I come in for a glass of water?' I decided to just not answer. To be honest, I don't know what to say. And I'm just going to say, he cannot be serious. He's a mail carrier. That's his one job. He has one job, and it's not crossing the line. He has no mail, yet he's coming up to this woman's door. Also, USPS mail carriers do not even have to knock or ring the bell. They can leave the mail, as she said, right at the mailbox. So he's actually taking an extra step because he has a clear obsession. And it scares me to think that he's been looking at her, maybe even looking at her photos somehow, even though it said that her profile was private. But now he's at her door. OP went on to say, then, about 2 weeks ago, my then boyfriend stayed the night and slept in. I already left for work. I get a call around 10:30 from my boyfriend. I won't believe what just happened, and to check the camera. I do. The mailman came. He rang the bell a few times and my boyfriend answered the door. The mailman took a step back and my boyfriend stood there for a moment and they stared at each other. He realized the mailman didn't have anything in his hands. He said, "Can I help you?" And the mailman said, "Where's the small girl who lives here?" I'm pretty petite, slightly under 5 feet and 100 pounds. My boyfriend was stunned and said, "I live here too. From now on, leave our packages downstairs," and slammed the door. I was really happy he said that because truthfully, he didn't live with me, well, full time, maybe 2 nights a week. It seemed to work. I didn't see the mailman again at all, actually. My then boyfriend and I broke up a few months ago. I completely forgot about the mailman until today. I was entering my building where he was exiting at the same time I was entering. He stared at me and I went to walk by and he turned to walk after me and said, "Hey, I haven't seen that guy in a while who used to live with you. Did he move out?" I panicked and I walked faster, grabbing my keys, and I lied and said, "Oh, he's around." And as I entered quickly, I said, "Hey, honey, I'm home." And I slammed it fast. I don't know why I lied, but something told me to make it clear that I wasn't alone. Am I being dramatic or mean? Or is he creepy? Okay, I can't hold back. I have to say, not only is he creepy AF, but it's entirely inappropriate. And just a side note that is relevant, I used to live next door to a federal agent who specifically worked with mail fraud and other mail-related cases. There's a special task force that handles mail carrier laws and any kind of criminals that are breaking those laws. This right here is harassment, plain and simple. And there was a story I heard from my FBI friend, and it was pretty bad. There was a mailman who was fired. They had disciplinary actions before this, but in that case, the mailman had an obsession with a young woman in one of the homes where he was delivering on his route. She had been ordering Victoria's Secret, or, those catalogs you get because you ordered something, and they were coming in the mail, and he would open them up and write things on the pictures of girls in their bras and underwear. Messages to the homeowner, and she had no idea who was doing it. And it was starting to get more and more creepy and unsettling, and finally, she put a camera up. And that's when they realized it was the actual mailman who was trying to send these really inappropriate and disgusting messages. Things like, "I want to see this on you. I wonder what you would look like in this outfit." That's just really, really scary. But here's what commenters said about this story. Selby Alexander wrote, "You're right to be taking this extremely seriously. This kind of thing can escalate quickly. I would report him to your local post office because that's also super unprofessional and certainly against their basic code of conduct. Send them the Ring camera videos when you report him and request that he never deliver mail to your building again, or you will report him to the police for harassment. And also, make sure you have very secure locks on your door. Maybe add an extra chain or a deadbolt. You really don't want to take any chances with this. Be aware when entering and exiting your building and avoid being alone with him at all costs. Bad things can happen in elevators, stairwells, or even hallways." And by the way, we did an entire video about creepy elevator situations, so it's true. She said, like a man shoving a woman into her own apartment and following after her. Never answer the door if he comes up to it, regardless of whether he has mail. As long as he thinks you have a man in that house, he will probably leave you alone, but there's really no guarantee. I've had a stalker before, and sometimes they escalate. It can get bad, so take care of yourself. And I agree to all of what that commenter said. Another commenter, Rosie Girl, said this. I agree. I worked for the post office. Report him. They have federal mail inspectors and might even contact the FBI to investigate him. He's a federal government employee. Report him. Exactly. That's what I was saying. This is a government job, and the FBI has a special team just to investigate anything having to do with the mail or an employee delivering it. I do like when people comment with advice. And somebody said to go one step further, leave some men's boots in front of your door. Goodwill has cheap worn-in pairs that you can get for cheap. This will make it look like a man lives there. And I've actually heard people leaving things outside to show maybe they have a dog. They would put like a big dog bowl and a leash to deter people from trying to come to their house. I know they even make barking devices, like fake barking noises coming from your door. I'm not really sure how those things work, but the boots are very similar. You leave them outside. He thinks your boyfriend is living there. Peachy Life said, female mail carrier here. This is absolutely inappropriate of him. Call the local postmaster, call the police, and make a report. If that doesn't work and he keeps it up, call the Postal Inspection Service. I'm sorry this happened to you. Your feelings are valid. I work with quite a few mail carriers, and all but one of them are great guys. The other is a gross old man who says inappropriate things, but even he wouldn't do what this guy did. Now, there is an update in this story, so I did want to share it. OP said, I took everyone's advice. Thank you so much. I decided to reach out to the super of my apartment and explain the situation and show him the videos. He said he will implement a new policy. Male personnel are not permitted to walk around the complex. Simply go to the designated mailroom and leave. I also got large men's work boots and put them outside my door. She had a second update and she said, wow, I wasn't expecting so many people to care about my story. Thank you, everyone. I took the advice and everyone telling me this isn't acceptable, and I decided it was time to call the postmaster. I sent them the video recordings I had, and they assured me they will be looking into the matter as well as assigning a new mailman to my route. I also made sure to go down to my local police station and file an incident report. And they have the videos as well. Thank you, everyone. Also, I'm flattered that so many people are concerned that I was getting a lot of requests to post the videos. But considering I'm in them and it shows my apartment and all this is still ongoing, I prefer not to post them publicly. Yet if anyone thinks they have experienced the same thing with him, please DM me and I'll send the videos privately, just not in a public forum. And I was thinking it's kind of weird that people want to see the videos. I mean, yes, people can be curious, but she's in them. So no, I wouldn't post them publicly either. And this whole situation with this guy makes me feel so bad that some women have to go through things like this. And I'm sure there's men who go through it too, because I know women can be stalkers as well. But I really do feel like a lot more women have stories just like that one. This next one is so scary too, because recently there has been an increase in fake UPS or fake FedEx workers or even Amazon trying to gain access to people's homes. It's terrifying. I watched a video recently of a family who answered the door to who they thought was a delivery person. And it ended up being two armed men with guns, and they worked their way into the house, holding the family at gunpoint. And then they went on to murder multiple people in that household, and there were children that were there crying. And this video was actually from inside this home. These were cameras that the family had in the interior of their house. There was also body cam footage of the police arriving, and it was just so devastating. It's absolutely heartbreaking to know that there are people out there who are using authority, so to speak, as a mail carrier or putting on a vest like you're an Amazon delivery person and gaining access to homes like this. If you can, try to do the whole signature confirmation earlier so that you can have everything left at your door and you don't have to open it for anyone. This next story is also from the Let's Not Meet subreddit, and it is from Dry Establishment 434. It's entitled, Someone Tried to Break Into My House and They Knew My Identity. What should I do? They wrote, this all started a couple days ago, July 5th, where I'd get a random call from FedEx, it's in quotes, around 10 p.m., where they would ask me for my name and address, which they already knew, and I gave it to them thinking it might be a package that was lost and somehow found its way back to my home. In hindsight, I should have known FedEx doesn't deliver past 8 p.m. here in Canada. I thought nothing of it until I got another phone call saying they can't find my unit number and asked me to come out to the roundabout near my place. My dad thought it was weird, so he patrolled the area to find these people. My dad did around 4 laps. The first lap, there wasn't anything there. But then I got curious and joined him for the second lap. Yet again, nothing. I went back to my house and my dad did a third lap around the house, and he found a gray SUV in the corner and confronted them. They told my dad they were not the delivery person, and my dad left to do another confirmation check. As he was doing his last lap, the same SUV wasn't there. Okay, I kind of have to question why FedEx would tell someone to come out of their home and to a specific part of their street. That would be a big red flag for me. But OP went on to say, the next day, July 6th, around 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., we hear a doorbell ringing, and I went down to check, and it was 2 individuals around the ages of 20, and they knew my name, and they were calling out for me. I thought it was weird because I've never seen them before. I didn't feel safe, so I didn't pursue them. They kept coming over and over again, so we called the police and talked about what we should do. The cops told me to contact them if this happens again. And the next day, on July 7th, it was very quiet. Nothing weird happened. So we thought the worst has ended and just went on with my day. The next day, July 8th, it was the same quietness. But when the time approached 11 p.m., my security camera spotted an individual with a mask on taking photos or videos of my current house. This was the breaking point. We contact the police and inform them about this very weird behavior. Okay, yeah. This is almost like someone casing the home, trying to figure out, someone's schedule or what doors are locked or where the windows are. It might sound extreme, but I have witnessed this and called the cops before. And it could be innocent, and that's okay. It could be someone just taking photos because, I don't know, they want to get design ideas from the outside of your house. I've been guilty of that. But maybe if this person has a criminal record or a history of doing this, it's important to document it because you never know. Like they say, if you see something, say something. OP said, just when you thought it was over, I was casually in the living room around 3 a.m. the same day, July 8th. I heard something thunking outside my balcony. I thought it could be anything and didn't mind it until it thunked again. I went to the balcony to go see what I was hearing, and then it clicked. I was face to face with an intruder. I started screaming for help, and my family came down to check out the commotion. Thank God I checked the balcony that day. Who knows what else could have happened? Today is July 9th, and I haven't got a wink of sleep thinking of the terror that I faced. Am I one of their targets of a home invasion? How did they get my name? What do they want from me? But that was the end of their initial post. But in the comments, there was a quick update before they started answering other people's questions. The OP said that their house caught on fire, that these individuals threw something at the home, like a Molotov cocktail. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a glass bottle that's filled with a flammable liquid. That could be gasoline, alcohol, kerosene, and it has a rag wick, and it's used to create a fireball when you smash it. So when I read this, I was kind of skeptical of this entire story being true. But if it is, it's beyond terrifying. I'm never saying these type of things because I want to insinuate that the original poster should have known better or anything like that. But FedEx, in my experience, has never called my phone. If anything, FedEx or UPS will send me a notice inside the app, but maybe this has happened to you. I know when I had flowers delivered once, though, they did want my phone number in case they couldn't find something or get in or anything like that. But I don't know. It seems like in this case, it got to a point of extreme escalation if they're trying to burn down the home. The top commenter said, have you or a close friend gone through a breakup recently, like the last 6 months? Have you left a job, had an argument with friends or coworkers? Are there any revealing photos of yourself that you send to someone that might be posted online with your name and address somewhere, some exes do really effed up shit when they feel they have been spurned. So the OP said, I don't have beef with anyone, and I'm pretty introverted. I did break up with an ex a while ago, so I don't think that's it. And I'm going to say, there was someone that called OP dumb for having her name and address and giving it to a random person on a phone call. Well, they are supposed to be a FedEx worker, and she did say they already had her address and name. So I don't know if they said it to her and she confirmed it. I definitely don't think name calling is appropriate. But remember, I did comment that I didn't think FedEx would ask someone to come out of their house. That, I think, is a big red flag. And from that point forward, I think calling the cops was completely appropriate. Someone else pointed out, maybe they got your phone number from a store or something like that. Another person suggested a gym membership where you put down your address and your phone number. Maybe an employee got it from there. You never know. Low Tutor 2184 commented, I would seriously be moving from that home. Remove all pictures of me, my neighborhood, my friends, etc., and any info that identifies me on all social media. Go off the grid so they cannot find you or your family. My mom uses these things called add-a-lock on all of the doors. It makes it 100% harder to break in. Get security lights. As you mentioned, you have cameras. Get security lights that are bright and go off of movement, so hopefully deter them. Gotta watch your surroundings when outside your home as well. Never go anywhere alone. Go in a group with friends. Get your parents to pick you up if you go out. And if you do drive, check your vehicle for anything suspicious. Maybe a tracker, something under the hood that can cause car issues, etc. You cannot be too careful nowadays, to be honest. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, yes, I'm paranoid and I do a lot of checking as well, but it just seems like, oh my goodness, you have to do all this checking, don't go anywhere alone, have your parents pick you up if you're in your car, check the hood. It's like, wow. But I definitely agree. I have heard of the add-a-lock. I'll put one up on the screen. This is those things that you usually get for hotel rooms. I was gifted one a few years ago, and I'm not really convinced that it does that much to keep someone out. If you've never seen them before, they're like these portable door locks, mostly used when you're traveling. And there are some videos on Amazon where you can go ahead and see how they work. You install them, and it does make it harder to essentially turn the doorknob. But I just did a case on my true crime channel where the perpetrator simply kicked in one of the wooden panels on the front door. So yeah, I doubt that little thing is going to do very much. I think the best way is to have lines of defense, which I talked about in other videos, a camera outside, an alarm system, a way for the police to be contacted immediately, because the faster they get to the scene, the better chance you have of not being harmed. Many of the commenters recommended that this poster get a form of protection, whether that's mace, wasp spray, bear spray, or even hairspray. They said just aim it in their face and it'll work the same. And I'm going to say, as a daughter of a former criminal that used to break into homes on a regular basis, my dad always told me, if you're going to do something, don't do something that's going to make the perpetrator angry. And he said spraying something like that at him would make him angrier. If you're going to invest in a weapon, make sure it can truly stop them. Someone else commented, honestly, this is one of the reasons I always remove my name and address from junk mail or packages like Amazon when I toss them into the recycling bin. Someone could just get into the bin and have my full name and my address. For letters, I just open it, tear off my name and address, and shred it. For packages, I use a thick Sharpie and I black out my name and address. I have never thought about that. And I'm pretty sure every little bit counts. There was a couple updates from the original poster. They said the situation was calm now and the police were on it. And currently they were staying in an Airbnb until construction was finished on their home. And they just wanted to thank everyone who was worried. Residents, be careful and stay aware of your surroundings. Strange arson incidents were happening everywhere at the moment where they lived, and they weren't sure what was going on, but it wasn't safe. And the people responsible must be caught, and police, they wanted to thank them for doing all they could. That's scary. They said they lived in Canada, and the original poster also wrote that the police told them to lay low and they were logging off social media. They said that was their last message. But of course, I had to go and dig up and see if they posted again on Reddit. And sure enough, about a year later, they were back posting on another thread. So I think it's safe to say their situation did not escalate any further, thankfully. They did apparently set up cameras around their home, and the police got involved, which I think is very smart. Personal safety is important, and this next story makes that very clear. It's from the Let's Not Meet subreddit as well, and it's called The Fake Maintenance Man by Red Raven 20. She wrote, I'm in my 40s and thought about an incident that occurred to me in the mid-90s, 1997 to be exact. Reading some of the other posts from young women and men really scared me. I want to share this story so that other young people will be vigilant about their own personal safety. In 1997, I was in the Army National Guard, enrolled in college, and also worked a part-time job. I was also a single mother with a 4-year-old. I was juggling quite a bit, but always smiling and friendly. No one was a stranger. I was raised in a rural area, so that's just how most people were. I moved to a new apartment in the city about 5 minutes from my father's home, so I felt pretty safe. I lived in my apartment about 3 weeks when on one morning while getting ready to leave for class, I heard a loud knock on my door. I opened it without questioning who it was. There was this massive guy that had to be at least 6'4" or 6'5" and maybe over 250 pounds. This guy was normal looking, very fit, with a maintenance belt on, and he tells me that he was the maintenance guy and needed to look at my power box, electrical box, located in my room. I don't know how he knew where to go. I let him in, and when I did, a severe sense of terror washed over me. I realized I'd made a mistake. I was alone with this guy who went right back to my room. I remember wanting to sit and eat, but the terror I felt was so strong, I grabbed my backpack and rushed out to class. Okay, that just gave me the chills, and I admit, when I was in my 20s and in my first apartment, I did something similar, and thankfully it really was the maintenance person, but it is creepy. Even creepier that the original poster said that this man knew exactly where her electrical box was located. How did he know it was in her bedroom? Well, she went on to say, I was so scared to come home, and I didn't tell my dad. I don't know what I was thinking, but I came home alone late at night. I looked under the beds and my couch, and I was relieved to find I was alone. But then I found a massive hole in my closet ceiling, large enough for a man to get through. A few days passed, and I convinced myself that maybe he was the maintenance man. Maybe I was paranoid for no reason. I'm going to say, wait a minute. You're telling us there's this maintenance man that's supposed to look at an electrical box, and he's now created a hole in your ceiling of your room that he can fit through? What the F is going on? That is entirely terrifying. She said, I went to the apartment manager and asked when the maintenance man would come to repair the hole in my ceiling. She became pale and asked me to describe the guy. She then tells me, he's not the maintenance man. The actual maintenance man was an elderly gentleman who lived in the apartment below me. The hole was patched up, and I never saw the stranger again. The guy looked so normal, muscular, tall, and not bad looking, but obviously a person with bad intentions. I looked up crimes where a man comes in posing as a maintenance man in the 90s, and there was a rapist active from 1985 to 1998 in my state, posing as a maintenance guy. He was caught and sent to prison, but I can't recall his name. Fake maintenance guy, I hope you are still locked up. Wow. I think it's really important to realize there is no look to a person who has bad intentions. Just take a look at all the different types of people who have committed crimes. There's no real look to them. Of course, we can obviously recognize someone who's sketchy, but even normal looking people doesn't mean normal acting people. The most popular comment on this thread was from Unfinished Sentence, and they have a sense of humor because look at the way they spell their username. They said, I had a similar experience like this when I lived at my last complex. The man turned out to actually be the maintenance man though, but it was in the middle of winter and my heat got shut off at 2 a.m. so I needed someone to fix it immediately because it was nearly as cold inside as it was outside. The dude that came to fix it kept holding his ribs and grunting in pain and said he had broken them, so he needed my help to hold the flashlight while he was working. He kept calling me over in the dark The thought of him just tricking me and actually having bad intentions was constantly on my mind, for sure. Glad you're okay. And that is a completely valid reason to be a little worried when you might feel vulnerable standing there in the dark with someone you don't even know in the middle of the night, and they could be faking an injury. Let's not forget what Ted Bundy used to do. But usually, if you are going through the appropriate channels to get your maintenance person to come and fix something, 9 times out of 10, you probably don't need to worry. I think it's more concerning when they come to you. That's a bigger red flag. Like they're knocking on your door saying like, hello, I'm here to check the whatever. You shouldn't let them inside without confirmation. A lot of apartment complexes now have a system online where you can make a request and follow your request and make sure the person who comes is the right one. Now, this last story is even scarier in my opinion because it's someone impersonating law enforcement. And I have done true crime cases about this exact thing going terribly wrong. It's entitled Fake Police Car or Worse. And it goes like this. I live in a major city in the South. It's a pretty big city, and as such, one finds themselves driving everywhere at all hours of the day. This is not an elaborate story, not typically terrifying, but there's enough left unanswered that it still gives me the creeps to think about. It was around 1:30 a.m. and I was driving home from a friend's house with my then girlfriend, Allison. We had been partying a little bit, but as I was driving, I had opted to maintain sobriety. Allison had a few drinks, but nothing serious, and over the course of several hours. Now, the house I was leaving is not in a particularly bad neighborhood, but not a good one either. The city where I live, there are lots of gentrified areas where crack dealers live next to 4-person families. It's a place where you are fine in the daytime, but you wouldn't want to be walking the streets alone late at night. Being familiar with the area, I decide to take a little cut-through street. As I pull onto the street, I end up at a stop sign. I look behind me, and there's a truck that pulls out of an adjacent road behind me to my left. I move forward from the stop sign, and he continues to follow me. I think nothing of it. The road doesn't have any street lamps, so it's pretty dark, and I can't get a good look inside the truck cab. I drive about another 20 feet, and all of a sudden I see blue lights in my rearview mirror. Cop lights. Now I think, shit, not again. However, as I look into the rearview mirror, I notice several things that don't seem right. For one, there aren't many police trucks in the inner city area. Sure, there are some, but they're not common. Secondly, the police lights are not on the top of the cab like a normal cop car, but next to the actual headlights by the grill, like a detective's car. Okay, so good for this poster to be taking note of all those small but very important details. Most of the time, police vehicles are SUVs. They're crossovers like Ford Explorers, Chevy Tahoes, Dodge Durangos, but trucks, like a pickup truck, I have seen them in the NYPD. They have pickup trucks as well as in here in California, but usually they're for transporting canine or certain types of equipment or over rugged terrain, for example. But they do have lights on the top as well as on the grill. So not seeing them on top would definitely be a red flag. OP goes on to say, I also notice there's an air freshener dangling from his rearview mirror, and I've dealt with police officers on numerous occasions, but I've never seen one of them have the stereotypical pine tree freshener. And did you know that it's illegal to hang those little tree air fresheners from your rearview mirror in several states because they can obstruct your view? I know it's true here in California and also in Arizona, Texas, and Minnesota. You can get a violation for it. And did you also know that you can get a violation for doing your eye makeup in your rearview mirror? Who knew? I had to find that out the hard way. But OP said, lastly, as I kept moving forward, slowly contemplating this entire situation, considering pulling over, I noticed the final strange variable. There is no police siren, no horn, no noise. It was late, it was dark, and I continued to drive slowly as I thought about all the odd factors. If I had only noticed the first two factors, I think I may have stopped, but the fact that the blue lights kept flashing without any sirens was just off. Now here's the thing. I just want to point out, this is not necessarily a red flag. Sometimes they do not put their lights and sirens on at the same time. Sometimes they only put their lights on, specifically at night and in places where they're trying to avoid making a lot of noise, like a residential neighborhood, for example. after normal hours, and on traffic stops, which are not usually or necessarily an emergency. But the poster went on to say, also, I know in my state it is legal to pull into a well-lit area at night for these circumstances. I decided that the air freshener, the position of the lights, and the lack of sirens was just too weird. I wasn't going to risk pulling over in a bad area, so I decided to move forward at around 20 miles an hour until I got to a gas station. The truck continued to follow me. There are a lot of speed bumps and road signs on this road. And thinking there's a possibility a cop pulling me over, I abide by all the laws. The final straw that I determined made this truck a false police officer, he also obeyed all traffic laws. When a cop wants you to pull over, you pull over. And if you don't, they aren't going to stop at a stop sign to let you get away. This guy stopped when I stopped, moved forward when I did, and even turned as I decided to get to a more populated road. After about 100 yards, he turned off his lights, both the blue lights and his main headlights, takes a left behind me, and peels away. It was at that moment I knew he was not a cop. I don't know exactly what I avoided that night. I drive a nice car, so it could have been a carjacking, but I don't rule out something worse. If it wasn't for my ex-girlfriend's presence, I may have stopped. Ultimately, I'm just happy I didn't. Yikes. These stories of fake police officers really get to me. Using authority like this, even as a thrill, to harness that power, it's gross. Who knows what their intentions really were that night? Someone in the comments mentioned that their ex had a red and blue light sitting on his dash, plus a loud horn installed, just so that he could screw with people, and also to make them get out of his way. They said, I hated that. He thought it was the funniest thing ever, and explains why he's been kicked out of every school he's been in. Another commenter said, there's a douchebag in our town that's a volunteer firefighter, and he has both his car and truck decked out in lights and sirens. It's not illegal in our state to have these things, but it is illegal to run lights and stop signs, which he does. Everyone despises of him, and that's crazy. That's abusing authority. I feel like that can really escalate. We've seen it in cases before. And the OP said they were unnerved for quite a while, and they didn't want to take any chances with their girlfriend in the car that night, and this whole experience was weird. They wanted everyone to remember to follow their instincts, and there was someone who made a really good point. They said, it was legal and advisable in all situations where you are alone at night in an underpopulated area to call 911 when a police officer is attempting to pull you over. And I want to add, do it no matter where you are or what's going on. If you're not sure, call. There's nothing wrong with making sure it's a real police officer, because it's terrifying to think someone could be using that authority to do some very evil things. Those are all the stories I have for you today. I think it's great when we can learn something from these stories, so I hope you learned a little more about personal safety, things you can do around your house, and also calling the authorities and reporting things that don't look right. All right, I will see you in my next video. Stay safe out there. Bye.